Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again, and this is the Roads Not Taken, episode 8. This is a weekly series where we go through and take a look at stories that were underreported or they weren't covered well on my channel or at all. Short version is, this is information you will see again in future coverage about other events. Okay, and we will start off with foreign policy. China plans on a massive expansion of its space station. The additional modules will still leave the Chinese station about half the size of the famed ISS, but it is worth remembering that the International Space Station is slated to be retired around the end of the decade. And in NATO news, the United States shot down a Turkish drone when it got too close to its forces. That's going to come up again. In apparent retaliation for being forced to withdraw the Black Sea Fleet, Russia struck at a grocery store, killing about 50. North Korea completed a transfer of an unknown quantity of artillery shells to Russia. Unknown quantity and quality. We'll have to wait and see how that works. The United States provided Ukraine with more than 1 million rounds of ammo seized from Iran. And there's apparently a question about this. What good is 1 million rounds of M60 ammo in Ukraine? Do they even use that? In Ukraine, yeah, they probably have some. It's very eclectic. But odds are, since the ammo came from Iran, it's probably not 7.62 NATO. It's probably not 7.62 by 51. It's probably 7.62 by 39, or maybe even by 54. Different sizes for different weapons, for those who are not following. The first number is the width. The second number is the length. Both Warsaw Pact and NATO had a 7.62. So had the same width, but the rounds were actually different. My guess is that it's Warsaw Pact stuff. And then the big news that is breaking right now, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has moved into another phase in which a state of active war exists. And there will probably be a lot of coverage about that over the next week, detailing everything from the apparent intelligence failures to what happened to the security systems that were in place. It's bad if you haven't seen anything about it yet. Okay, moving on to the U.S. Nikki Haley is polling in second place in some polls and in some places when it comes to the Republican primary. That is an interesting development. MGT tweeted to AOC, "Thank you for helping us get rid of Kevin McCarthy. We made a good team." Remember when McCarthy decided to buddy up to Space Laser Lady and something leopards? Okay, McConnell stepped into the House drama saying, "I hope whoever the next speaker is gets rid of the motion to vacate." Basically, that is a signal from the Senate that the House of Representatives should be deliberate in their choice of speaker, because the Senate does not want to go through this mess again. It is undecided whether or not the House will heed that advice. Trump, when speaking recently, said of immigrants, "It's a very sad thing for our country. It's poisoning the blood of our country." Blood poisoning. Over the years, I have read just about every text written by every villain throughout history. The poisoning of the blood of a country, that rhetoric is super familiar. The leader of Germany in the 30s and 40s used it a lot. I don't see how that could be taken any other way. This is one of those moments when somebody tells you who they are, you'd better believe them. Okay, a man with a handgun was arrested after he showed in the Wisconsin Capitol looking for the governor. He reportedly posted bail and then returned with a rifle. According to the reports, he said he wanted to talk to the governor about domestic abuse towards men. Jim Jordan appears to be coordinating his speaker's run with Trump and has received Trump's endorsement. Biden's dog, Commander, is no longer at the White House after biting a list of Secret Service agents. I would like to restate my offer. The dog can come live here. Just saying. I have a lot of questions about these developments, to be honest, with the dog. Okay. Biden announced another $9 billion in student loan forgiveness. That brings the total up to about $130 billion. These programs have impacted around 3.6 million Americans. If you are keeping track, that's about 1 out of every 100 Americans. Okay, McCarthy is denying reports that he plans on leaving Congress. There was a lot of reporting saying he was going to resign. He's saying he's not going to. That should be interesting as a new speaker is chosen and things play out. I'm sure there won't be any bad blood there at all. Moving on to cultural news, Musk, for whatever reason, decided his social media site would no longer show headlines to news articles and instead just have like the thumbnail image, because, you know, who wants to read a headline? If you think about this, this actually kind of explains a lot about some of Musk's decisions. Obviously, there is a concern that this will lead to a whole bunch of mislabeled articles and more misinformation on the site. YouTube is allowing creators to designate their pronouns on their channels. Of course, there are some people who are opposed to inclusion of any kind who are super mad about this. I guess we just have to expect that from now on. In environmental and science news, Brazil lost about 150 river dolphins. The most likely culprit is increasing water temperatures, which reached about 102 degrees in the area. To be clear, that's 102 degrees water temperature, not the air. That's incredibly hot. NASA is super excited about the quantity of material that was brought back recently from an asteroid. They're indicating that the haul greatly exceeded their expectations, and they're hoping to find clues about the asteroid's origins. Incidentally, the sample is from the same asteroid that we talked about over on the other channel that has a small chance of hitting Earth at some point in the future. And by at some point in the future, long after anybody watching this right now is gone. Okay, moving on to some Q&A stuff. Are there any examples of people giving away submarine secrets like Trump allegedly did? And what did they get? Like, what did they get for pay, or what they get for sentence? I'm sure. Okay. As far as somebody giving away submarine secrets, Walker, what did they get? A plea deal for life. They got a plea deal for life. It's worth noting that there are some massive differences between these cases. I mean, namely Walker actively working for a foreign intelligence service. The question here, as far as looking for something to compare it to, you're looking Snowden, definitely more than Winter. Probably, definitely, I would say worse than Manning, as far as the sentence. Yeah, the allegations against Trump and what he is alleged to have shared, it's something else. You called Walls a monument to the stupidity of man, but I bet you have a fence on that ranch. Is that also out of fear? Yeah. There's a fence on the ranch, multiple fences on the ranch. Incidentally, they're not to keep people out, they're to keep animals in. And when you think about it in that light, and you want to make that household comparison that a lot of conservatives like to make, I would ask this. I have the key to my gate. Would you have the key to the wall? Probably not, right? Somebody in D.C. you don't trust would have it. Just saying. Are you going to start using the chat feature on the Patreon app? Maybe. I haven't used it yet. I haven't even played with it, but it looks cool. I got an email about it. That might be something I do. You seem to be very generous when giving people the benefit of the doubt, which is a nice trait, but when you say things like they may not understand the situation they're in when talking about the Trump defendants, I don't understand what you even mean by that. They don't know they're arrested. They don't know why it was wrong. What do you mean? They don't understand the statistical likelihood of beating all of those charges and how small it really is, particularly with the federal cases. That's generally when I'm saying something like that, or I'm saying Trump may be beginning to understand the situation, that's what I'm talking about. For Trump, the odds of beating all of those counts, it's probably a zero. It's just not, it's not likely. I'm 22, and every time you do a video about nuclear bombs, the boomers in your comment section terrify me. They really just don't give a hoot, do they? That's probably not boomers. That's probably Gen X. Reminded of that meme. First time? You get used to it. You tell somebody from Gen X, somebody who was around and aware in the 80s, the Russians have a new missile that's super fast and we won't be able to detect it. People who were around during that period, they're like, cool, that means I don't get the 9 terrifying minutes of, waiting for it to arrive. It's just a very different look on life, or the end of it, I guess. You said you thought the Dems should let the GOP bring Twitter to the House floor. Won't that shut down the government and cause a strain on working families? If Jordan gets in there, it's almost a certainty that the government will shut down. Whether or not the Democratic Party allows Republicans to act the way they've been acting, that's not going to impact any policy stuff. The odds of the Democratic Party actually being able to exercise some kind of control over that right now, it's pretty slim. It's pretty slim. There's not anything realistically that they're going to be able to do. So in the absence of being able to mitigate it, I think it might be wise to highlight it And say, yeah, because I think you're right. I think you're right. If Jordan in particular, and believe me, there's other people that would do the same thing, but if Jordan in particular wound up as speaker, yeah, we'd probably have a shutdown. We would probably have a shutdown. And it would really kind of, with Jordan in a position of leadership, and that side of the Republican Party being more emboldened, those antics, they will become more pronounced. When they become more pronounced, they become more visible. And the average American sees that they're not really interested in governing. If Jordan ends up with the speakership, I don't know that there's anything the Democrats could do to realistically completely avoid a government shutdown. Because even if the Democratic Party caved, Democrats in the House, they cave, they give the Republican Party in the House everything they want, yeah, that's never getting through the Senate. So it's not a situation where the Democratic Party actually has any control. So my advice, rather than to try to cover it up for them, let them put it on display. Let them see it. Let the country see what's going on. My uncle told me that Trump is allowed to tell people stories from his time in office. He said it might not be smart, but that he gets to determine what to withhold. Your uncle is wrong. Wrong. Way wrong. No, that's not how it works. So President Trump could share information. Okay? And there should be a limitation on that, in the sense of he should only share it with people who actually have a need to know. But realistically, at the end of the day, the president gets to make that determination. President Trump gets to elect to share information. Golf course owner Trump gets to shut the hole under his nose. It is not the same. The information that was allegedly shared occurred after Trump left office. You don't get to talk about it. You never get to talk about some of it. That is just, it is patently inaccurate. Like, that's just not true in any way. It's worth remembering that presidents, when they write their books after they leave office, those books go through a process to make sure that they're not unintentionally leaking like low-level secrets, or even stuff that at the time may not even be classified, but if they talk about the decision-making process too much, the review may say, maybe you soften this and don't give as much detail. The idea that a former president can just say whatever they want, it's not true. When it comes to classified information, it's the information that is secret, not the paper. It doesn't have to be written down. It doesn't have to be a document. Just conveying the classified information is against the law. Those allegations that he shared that specific type of information, that's big. I have questions about why that conduct wasn't charged. And that's why I'm real specific about saying allegations right now. I have questions about that, because that, out of everything that involves the document side of things, this is like the biggest deal. And it's not charged conduct. That to me is odd. I don't know if it was Smith trying to tailor the indictment to make it speedy, or maybe the evidence isn't there to prove those allegations in court. But I think one of the things it revealed was the lengths that people would go to defend that man. There is zero excuse for sharing that kind of information. None. There is not a reason to do it. The only reason it would be done would be to be like, I know all the secrets. Check out the size of my ego. That's it. Sharing that information with a foreign national is just, it is wild to me. Like it's unbelievable. No, he absolutely does not get to determine whether or not to withhold that kind of national defense information. Short answer right there. That's not how that works. Okay, and that's it. All right, so we ran through the news for the week and kind of filled in some information gaps. Having better information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good night.